First, we're going to go over their alphabet. I'm using quotations when I say alphabet because they didn't have one. They had a catalog of sounds represented by symbols, which is what an alphabet essentially is. Any alphabet you see comparing English to ancient Egyptian is for sound value only. Basically, we are using our sound symbols to understand their sound symbols. They even had symbols for other sounds like k and sh that we don't have, which is why we have to combine 2 letters to represent them, because we only have 26 symbols to work with. Now, before we go any further, remember that I too am learning this as we go. So I absolutely do not know anything else except for what I'm sharing right now. I'm basically just doing your research. But I'm pretty sure that no one knows their spoken language, so I don't feel very bad, I guess. But let's get back to the alphabet. First we have A. They used 2 A's for 2 different types of A sounds. There's a soft sound and a hard sound. The vulture is used for the ah soft sound. And it looks like a 3. Alrighty. The arm is for the A sound. And looks like an apostrophe when written. A good way to remember this is, well, it's the first letter you ever learned. The vulture. It's the first one. I mean, come on. B is the lower leg. A tip to remember it is, it kind of looks like a backwards B. I don't know if that helps. But it's also a bare foot. So there's that. That begins with B. C has 2 sounds as well. The hard C and the soft C. The hard C is the basket with a handle. It kind of looks like a C, right? Laying down. And just imagine it full of cookies. Cookies begins with K sound. The soft C is the folded cloth, which does not help at all, I know, because cloth begins with a hard C, so let's imagine the cloth is drooped over a sloth. It rhymes, you know. There's a sloth in that cloth. And the sloth begins with a S sound. Next is D. D is an open hand like this. Imagine yourself putting your hand out for a dog to shake it. Now there's apparently like 4 variations of D, because after this regular D, there's this one with a dot, and then this one with a slidey-do, and this underscored one. I guess we'll find out what all of those mean. Next we have E, which is technically also Y, because they're both very similar. They both use reeds. I is 1 reed. I mean, I'm sure you can remember that. And E is 2 reeds. And also Y is 2 reeds. So they're all kind of the same. I'm just going to go ahead and mush them all together. Okay, next is F. And that is the horned viper. It sort of looks like an F laying down, maybe? Next we have G. Now G is 2 sounds, hard and soft. One is the jar stand, which does sort of remind me of a capital G. I mean, it's round and has a thingy in the middle. But despite it being a jar stand, it sounds like G, not J. But we can try to remember this as thinking of it as a jar of confusion. The soft G sound, J, is also the same symbol for J. And J is technically not J in the ancient Egyptian language. It's more of a dj sound, having J at the end of the sound. And now we have H. H has quite a few variances here. There is this one with a dot, this one with a slidey-do, this one with an underscore, and the regular one that we are familiar with. The regular familiar one looks like this. And I gotta say it does resemble an H, yeah? And that, my friends, is what they call a reed house. Next is the twisted flax symbol, which is the H with a dot. I remember this because it's 3 dots. The underscored H is this symbol, an animal's belly, and is sort of long like the underscore. Next is the sieve, and that has the H with a slidey-do. And if you try to pronounce this word, it should sound something like ka. And the sieve is round, and so it fits together all ka-happy. So there seems to be a pattern emerging, where all of these funny H's represent sounds that all end in H sound. The I is the single reed. We already went over this, but we're doing it again. Pretty easy to remember though, so we'll move on. Now, J is technically the same sound as the soft G, which is why the snake is back in here again. Get out of here. K has two symbols. The hard K, the basket of cookies, remember? And a sloping hill. The sloping hill represents the guttural k sound. And it looks like this. And it kind of looks like a backwards K, maybe? Yep, it does. L is a lion. That is pretty straightforward. So moving on. I find that crazy that, you would draw an entire lion for an L. That's insane. Alright, next is M. M is the owl. Its feet kind of look like an M. And so does its face, and usually different variations of owl drawings have ears, which also look like an M. And for some reason I can remember this really well, so hopefully you do too. Next is N, and it is the water symbol. And it's a lot of N's, just over and over again, so you got this, kid. The O sound is symbolized with the quail chick and the vulture, which are both variations of the above vowel sounds. So O must be somehow configured to be those two. Yeah. Alright. Next is P. P is the square. And I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be a stool, but I just don't see it. It's a square, you know? How is that a stool? You drew a lion, for God's sakes, and this stool is a square? I don't understand. But yeah, I got nothing for this. P square, I'm not sure. Q sound is represented by the hard C again. And next is R. R is this weird symbol that represents a mouth. So just close your eyes and picture it saying, "This is ridiculous." Next is S, and again, it's the folded cloth. So just sit there, sloth, and a cloth. And it kind of also looks like a beat up S, like it got in a fight, and it's just slumping at home, but once it perks up, it'll be a good old S again. Next is T. T is this loaf of bread, but it pretty much just looks like a taco to me, which begins with T, so that totally works. Next is the letter U, but before I explain U, you're gonna have to go ahead and scratch out all of the notes that you have for the letter O, because after doing even further research from varying places, I've come to realize that the O sound is actually represented by this symbol, the tied knot. And the oo sound is actually represented by this symbol, a swirly-doo, not the quail, chick, and vulture like every single alphabet seems to tell me. Ooh, bummer, quail, chick. So a good way to remember these is that they look fairly similar to each other, with the swirly-doo looking more like a U, and the knot looking like a closed loop. Next is V. V is again the horned viper, which is represented by the F symbol, because V was also F because they're very similar and they apparently don't separate the two sounds, so perhaps it's just a combination of both V and F? I don't know. But that's a very scary looking viper. Alright, next is W, and that's the quail chick. Again? This quail chick's everywhere. Alright, we're gonna have to go over this whole quail chick business. And next is Y. And although the sound of Y is very similar to E and I, the actual letter would be written as this symbol, the double slash. And it kind of looks like a disassembled Y. Next is Z. Z is the door bolt. To me, I just don't see it. That doesn't look like a door bolt at all. Like, what is going on? Then again, I have no clue what type of protection they were trying for, so maybe they thought a rope would work. I don't know. Next is the CH sound, represented by the tethering rope. It's not so much a CH sound from what I've researched, it's more of a TES sound, hence the way it's written as an underscored T. Now, sh is a pool. That looks like a rectangle, but apparently Egyptians had very geometric pools. Just think of the word shape, I guess, because it's a rectangle and it begins with sh sound. And that concludes this video. The next video will talk about numbers and logograms. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more smart stuff.